Exciting day today. Porsche, or Porsche, which I guess depends on whether you call it Barcelona or Barcelona, has kindly lent me a Taycan 4S electric sports car for a few days to review whilst they service my Cayenne. I can't wait! There are so many things I want to find out. How fast do they feel? What kind of range do they have in real life? What's charging like? Is it time to swap my petrol car for an electric one? And of course, which options are worth having on a car like this? Well, let's find out. First, a brief bit of background. I haven't driven an electric car or EV before, and I've got the same hang-ups as everyone else. I imagine charging them is a bit like trying to buy tickets for Wimbledon on the day. You'd be better off bringing a tent and queuing overnight. I've got pretty low expectations for the range too. I live 113 miles from London, and I don't think I'd expect to get there and back without taking quite a lot of Valium for my range anxiety. Then, of course, there's the question of depreciation. Taycan depreciation in recent years has been about the same as you'll see on most IKEA furniture. Good luck trying to get more than £1 for it after you've left the showroom. So let's go and see whether things have changed. I'm going to head off and see the very nice people at Dick Lovett Porsche in Bristol who are kindly, and some might say bravely, lending me the car. And here it is, and I tell you what, I think that's a really handsome looking car. It has had a bit of a midlife facelift, and like all the best midlife facelifts, it's quite subtle. Just a little bit of a lift here and a nip and a tuck there, but no overblown lip plumping to make it unrecognisable from what it once was. Now, the main changes have been to the headlights and to the bumper. And some people have said that makes the car look a little bit less interesting. But do you know what? I actually prefer it. I think it's a sort of cleaner line. It's a little bit more 911-ish. And it's rather nice. Down the side, there isn't much to say, except it's got a motion-controlled charging point there. Unsurprisingly, 4 doors. Then round the back, a reasonably roomy boot, but I'll come back to that a little bit later. And then another charging point on this side, and then we've got the under the bonnet room for your Fortnum's hamper. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go and see how this thing drives. I love the dashboard in this car. It's properly space age. So the first thing I'm really gagging to know is what the acceleration feels like on an electric car like this. So let's find out. 3, 2, 1. Holy shit! Can someone turn the lights back on, please? That really is quite quick. So what are the first things you notice about this car other than the acceleration? And of course the acceleration. Well, I think it's the way that it sticks to the road. Unlike my Cayenne, where the centre of gravity is a little bit higher, kind of roughly in line with my stomach, which causes the car to roll in the corners a little bit, along with my stomach, this thing's carrying all the weight in a huge battery under my backside, and that means it sticks to the road like it's on rails. And quite how it manages to accelerate the way it does without spinning the wheels defies physics. Then we headed over the Severn Bridge to the Brecon Beacons. So we're here at the glorious Brecon Beacons, or as they're more commonly known to the locals, the Panoramic. And we've been pottering around here all day. We've covered about 75 miles. And when we started, the battery was at about 86%, and it's now at 61%. So I calculate that gives us a total range of about 300 miles. We'll see whether that's true when we get back and when I've done a few more miles, but it is looking like that's about what Porsche told me to expect from the car. First impressions, this is a fantastic bit of kit. I can't tell you, it really is fabulous. I haven't had range anxiety for so much as a second. We've been driving it down the motorway and around the Brecon Beacons, and it's been supremely comfortable. It's goes like shit off a shovel, and well, it's great fun. There's just the small matter of £125,000, which is what this car will set you back with the options it's got installed. It's day 2 of my Taycan EV experience. When I got back last night, the battery was down to 33% from the 86% it was at when I picked it up from the garage to go to Wales yesterday. Anyway, 33%, just starting to make me feel a little bit anxious, although that does still equate to probably another 100 miles left to run. Still, I thought it'd be a good idea to check the Porsche app for local chargers. Now, it turns out that nearby, in the nearest town, they've only got 22 kilowatt chargers, which will take a little while. But just up the road, probably 4 or 5 miles away, there's a village with a 150 kilowatt charger. But better yet, Stourhead, the National Trust Gardens, have just opened a bank of 300 kilowatt chargers. That's about 25 minutes away, or probably more like 5 in this car. So I'm going to head over there and see what the charging experience is like. Oh, look, there they are, over there. Are there any queues? No, not one. So, what do we do here? Oh, look, here we go. Select a charging station on the app and start charging. Tap your debit or credit card. Select a port. Well, I don't know which one. Is it that or that? Plug in the connector. Oh, there we go. Well, I plugged in the connector. Maybe press that button there. Is that doing anything? I wonder if it tells me anything inside the car. Oh, look, it's got a red light on the... Oh, charging process stopped. Oh, maybe if I press that again. No. What the It's not immediately obvious what I'm supposed to be doing here. Oh, something's happening. I don't know if this is charging or not. Oh, error. Charging is not currently possible. I don't know. Is there a help number here? 5052.
Please press 1.
Hello? Oh, hi. I'm at one of your charging points with an EV that I've never driven before, and it won't charge. Hello? Oh, my God. Hello? 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 No. Oh, for God's sake. Well, this is really unfunny. Oh, Christ. Now the cable's stuck in the car. I can't undo it. I presented the bloody card. Fuck. Yeah, hi. I'm trying to charge my car. Yeah, but it's Stourhead. ST. It's the left connector. Well, I'm not sure of anything. No, it's saying plug in the connector. Oh. There's a bar. Like a software loading bar. I'm waiting for the loading bar. Oh, hang on, the screen's gone out. Charge point unavailable. Yes, I can do that. Hang on. Oh, present card. Oh, there we go. Okay, you can plug in now. Oh. I've got a red light.
You can try, if it is possible, on the station. On the other station.
Oh, there's something going on. Hey! Preparing power delivery. Hey! Great stuff. Thank you very much for your help. So it turns out none of that struggle was anything to do with the car. It was all because that rapid power station there, charging station there, just wasn't working. But now I've been here for, I wasn't timing it actually, I should have done, but probably 10 minutes, no more than that. And already, look, I'm up at 84%. That's blisteringly quick. Now, normally you would charge these things from, you'd let them go down to about 20% and then go charge them up to 80%. And that takes apparently 18 minutes. Now, some people say, oh, God, a bit of a pain to have to wait for 18 minutes for a car to charge. Because, of course, we're all used to just filling up immediately at the petrol pump. But the thing is, at the petrol pump, you finish filling up and then you have to go and stand in a queue for 10 minutes to go and pay for it. So I'm not sure that there's actually an awful lot of difference. And let's face it, if you're old enough to be able to afford one of these cars, you've probably got a prostate the size of Birmingham, in which case an 18-minute break to charge the car up is a blessed relief. Well, it's my third and final day with this car, and I thought I'd kick off with a suitcase test. Now, Mrs. Gadget doesn't really like to travel anywhere without a camel train, and this is just a small selection of her suitcases. So let's see how many we can get in the car. Start off with the biggest, I think. Will that go in? Yep, no problem. Perhaps that one. Quite tight, but that goes in okay. How about this one? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, this one, as you can see, it's not actually full. So you wouldn't get it in there. I don't think that would go in full, but you get something a little bit smaller. And then there's still room in there. I'm not going to get the big one in, but there's still room for a handbag or two. So this one would have to go on the back seat. Is that going to go? Yes, but obviously one of the children will have to stay behind. Anyway, I'm going to go head off for lunch now, and on the way we'll take a look at the options list, because I think I can save you, well, rather a lot of money by making the right choices. Before we go, let's just take a quick look at which model you should be buying. Now, the Taycan range starts with the base model, which costs £88,200. But I'd strongly recommend you go to the next one up the list, which is this one, the 4S. That gets you four-wheel drive. And I think you're going to need four-wheel drive to get all that power onto the road without spinning the wheels. Now, this car will take you from 0 to 62 in 3.7 seconds, and you'll probably be getting a range of, well, a little bit less than 300 miles. It'll also go to 155 miles an hour, although I suspect that if you're driving at that speed, the range will be measured in yards rather than miles. Now, you could spend another £22,000 to go to the next model up the list, which is the GTS, and that is 0.4 of a second faster to 62 miles an hour. But the claimed range is 11 miles less. And the same is true of the rest of the cars in the Taycan range. You're paying vast amounts of money for tiny little incremental gains in the 0 to 60 times, and yeah, sure, considerably faster top speeds, but when are you ever going to use them? This thing is already certifiably mad, crazy, bonkers fast, and who needs more than that? Moving on to paint, the good news here is that you can have a white or a black car completely free. But if you want a different colour, you're going to have to pay through the nose. There are 4 metallic colours, white, silver, black and grey, and they come in at £897. But if you want a colour, then you've got to have, the starting one is Dreams, which costs £1,436, and there are 7 choices. None of them would be my cup of tea, but, you know, each to their own. Then you've got another choice of 5 Legends colours. This is one of them. It's oak green, and I have to say, it's really grown on me. I think it's a really smart colour, actually. But would I spend £2,731 on it? Over a metallic black? I'm not sure I would. Then we've got paint to sample, and that is really just a choice, an expanded choice of colours from Porsche. I think there are about 130 to pick from, but they cost £7,535. Now, even that pales into comparison with the final choice, which is Paint to Sample Plus. And with this, you can take your own sample to Porsche and create a colour with them. And you'll even take part in the naming process for it. So, you know, I could have a shade of Arlo Red. But the price? £17,210. Geez, for that, I want them to come and redecorate my whole house. Finally, we need to take a look at the wheels. Now, on the Cayenne, I usually recommend people just stick with the base wheels. They're very nice looking, and there's no great advantage in moving up to a sort of more expensive set of wheels that you're going to bang into the curbs in 3 months anyway. But on this car, the entry-level wheels, the standard wheels, aren't really very attractive. So this car has got the 21-inch gloss painted Mission Design wheels, and they're bloody smart. I really like those, but they cost somewhere between £3,000 and £4,000. And I think the 20-inch Turbo Aero wheels would be a really nice compromise. I'd probably go for those if I was buying this car myself. Now, one thing I haven't shown you is how easy it is to get into this car in the back. So I'll quickly demonstrate. I'm 5'11", maybe a little bit more, although shrinking every day. And that is really not bad for a sports car. There's 3 or 4 inches in front of my legs. The seats are not pushed all the way forwards. I'd be very comfortable in there. So let's head off for lunch. On the inside of the car, you can have a vegan leather-free option at no extra cost. But for my money, I would go for the two-tone full leather interior, which costs £2,041. It makes the car feel that much more luxurious, and the two-tone colour scheme just brightens up the inside a bit. Seats-wise, you've got to remember that Porsche isn't going to sell you an uncomfortable seat, so there's really no need to get anything more than the standard ones. But I would go for the heated seats and for the 5th seat in the rear, which will add £708 to the bill. On the exterior, I would drive swiftly past the exterior design packages and design options. I mean, why spend all that money on the outside of the car when you're going to spend 99% of your life on the inside looking out? By the same logic, I wouldn't spend any money on a facelift, however much Mrs. Gadget might like me to. Under roof and transport systems, I tell you what, I'd skip past the panoramic roof. I had it on one of my last cars, on the Cayenne, and then not on a more recent one, and I haven't missed it anything like as much as I thought I would. And I tell you what, I think there's something about the driver's position in the Taycan. You're perhaps a little bit further forward, closer to the windscreen, and the roof's a little bit lower, so you really don't see the sunroof anything like as much as you do on the Cayenne. In fact, the people who are going to get the most benefit are the people sitting in the back. And who's going to spend all that money on the people travelling in economy? Under lights and vision, definitely spec the HD Matrix headlights for £1,755. They're magical! Aside from the convenience of not having to think about dipping your headlights and the fact that they light up the road so much better than the standard lights, when they go from dipped to main beam, it's like theatre curtains pulling back. I don't think I'll ever get bored of that. There's also an option to spend £1,000 on an illuminated logo at the back of the car. I have to say, I think it looks desperately cool. And it does say to the car behind, "Don't even try." But at £1,000, I think Porsche should be paying me to drive around with an illuminated billboard on the back of the car. As for interior packages, no, there's no need. Just go for the leather option. This car doesn't have any interior options, and it's still a very nice place to sit. Then it's on to technology, but I tell you what, this car is already such a nice ride, it's hard to imagine things like rear axle steering or torque vectoring making an awful lot of difference. Active Ride, which is a sort of fancy air suspension, well, you know what, if I had the money, I might be tempted to tick that box, but it is an awful lot of money, £6,476. And this car, which doesn't have it, is already a very nice ride. Sport Chrono? Definitely! That gets you the rocket launch button for overtaking! One thing catches my eye, it's Porsche electric sound, which is supposed to give the car a sound more like a petrol car. But I tell you what, I can't really see the point. To my mind, it sounds a bit like a tram. As far as assistance systems go, I probably would spec the head-up display. both because it makes me feel like a fighter pilot, but mainly because it puts the current speed limit on the windscreen in front of you, which is something you probably need to be reminded of in a car like this, where you'll find you're doing 3 times the national speed limit in the blink of an eye. But if you do spec this, then you do have to have the thermally and noise insulated glass, which brings the bill up another £2,124. Do spec Porsche Innodrive. I think it's one of Porsche's most underrated features. It's a kind of driving assist feature which handles the throttle completely, slows you down for speed signs and for other traffic, and handles some of the steering for you too, although it tends to give up going round corners on country roads. It does nevertheless reduce the amount you have to concentrate while you're driving, and I find that on a long journey it reduces fatigue by, I don't know, probably 30-40%. I wouldn't buy a Porsche without it. Surround view with automatic parking? Well, I don't know. I had surround view on one of my old cars and then not on a more recent one, and I tell you what, I just don't miss it. I think the better option is learning how to drive. But I've never tried the automatic parking function, and we're off to go and try that out now, so we'll see whether I'm persuaded. Under entertainment, do go for the Bose sound system. It's a very substantial upgrade on the standard system. To test the self-parking, we headed off to one of the most beautiful streets in England, the Royal Crescent in Bath. Start parking. And it's indicating automatically. And look at that. All this bloody pinging, I feel like a sonar operator on a submarine.
1 ping only, please.
Vasily, didn't you hear me? I said 1 ping. And there we go. Millimetre perfect. So there we go, that's your lot. And I think I've come in at, well, somewhere around 20 grand less than this car is spec'd for, and I think it'd be a better car. So, should I buy one? Is it time to swap my gas-guzzling Cayenne for an abstemious EV? Does it have enough range? Well, it's interesting, this question of range. Manufacturers sell you a car on the basis of its WLTP consumption figures. That stands for the Worldwide Harmonized Light Vehicles Test Procedure, in case you're interested. Anyway, they consistently overestimate the range you'll get from an EV, which just sets everyone up for disappointment. What they should do, of course, is hire Lando Norris for a few days each winter. Get him to take a large amount of crack cocaine and then drive all the EVs on the market as fast as he possibly can, with the air conditioning, the lights, the sound system, the heated seats and the heated steering wheel on full blast, and see how far he gets. Then the manufacturers could give you a minimum range, and everyone would be delighted when their car went twice as far as expected. Anyway, on a good day, we got around 300 miles from a charge. I suspect that on a cold day, driving like Lando on crack, you might get 250 miles, which is still easily enough to get me to London and back. If you charge a Taycan at home on a normal socket, Porsche tells me it'll take around 2 days to charge from 0 to 100%, which sounds like a lot, but actually means that between 6:30 p.m. and 7:30 the next morning, you should be able to charge around 27%. By my calculation, that means you could commute at least 34 miles to work and back per day, probably more, without depleting the battery from one day to the next. The rest of the time, you're reliant on chargers, but looking at the Porsche app, there are plenty of 300 kilowatt or faster chargers around the countryside, which will get you from 20 to 80% charge in 18 minutes. And I can easily live with that. So yeah, range-wise, I think 250 to 300 miles is fine. I'm sold. I wouldn't want any less than that, though. Depreciation-wise, there are three factors that have conspired against resale values. The first has been government grants, which give substantial incentives for companies to buy EVs for their staff. The second was the fact that Porsche made a lot of first-generation Taycans, which has driven down the price of used ones. Finally, second-hand EV prices are not helped by the pace of development going on at the moment. Who wants to buy an EV today when there might be a new model in a year or two with significantly better range? But as ranges increase and charge times drop, so this effect kind of wears off until at a certain point, probably around 400 miles, it becomes largely irrelevant. That, combined with the fact that Porsche is apparently not making as many of the new generation Taycans, means that the depreciation on these should be a lot less than on the previous model. So am I going to trade in my Cayenne? If I had a spare $100,000 under the mattress, yeah, I probably would, just for that acceleration. Now, of course, most EVs accelerate like a scalded cat, but I'd much rather buy a car from a German company with its famously indestructible engineering, not to mention Porsche's exceptionally long pedigree, than from a man who probably should be selling aftershave. And nor do I want to buy a car from President Xi. He likes exporting electric cars because he's had them all fitted with a remote kill switch, so he can cause gridlock at the press of a button. But unfortunately, I don't have a spare $100,000 at the moment, besides which there's another small problem. I do a lot of bicycling and I don't much fancy the idea of trying to squeeze an e-bike into a $100,000 sports car without scratching the paint. Still, got me thinking, I think that new electric Macan could make a lot of sense. And it's $20,000 cheaper. If you want to watch my comprehensive guide to the options list on the Cayenne, nearly all of which are available on the other cars in Porsche's range, I'll put a link over there, or over there. Otherwise, till the next time, I've been Arlo Guthrie. Bye-bye.